Hello everyone, this is Kinetic Chaos Cooking
And beer.
Live Beer. I've got Wes here as always. Today we have a very special guest though. We have Jon Keith who is joining us fresh from California. Where are you from California?
Santa Barbara.
Santa Barbara.
On the beach.
Oh, he's so fancy. I wish it
Sounds fancy, but yeah.
It's not. Do you get to go to the beach?
I do. I
Do
do
you?
occasionally.
Do you surf?
I do not surf. I got a lot of friends that surf, and when I ask them to teach me, they kind of start talking about other stuff. They don't want to teach me, so I don't surf.
Well, you go out there and do it on your own, and
Should.
just make sure you wear a life jacket. Okay?
That's right.
So today, this is our first episode of doing some cooking stuff, and we've got some beers, we've got some bratwursts that are already on here. We've got Zenner's bacon and cheddar.
Yeah, bacon and cheddar smoked sausage.
Bacon and cheddar smoked sausage, and then just regular old bratwurst that we are smoking on the new Oklahoma Joe grill here. We're going to do some bacon wrapped chicken wings, some regular chicken wings, and a teriyaki pineapple type whole chicken here. So right now we've got some dogs that are ready to come off because these guys are hungry and so am I. So we're going to enjoy those. We're going to kind of talk to you about the grill stuff here. Jon is relatively new. He's kind of a novice to smoking, and Wes he's experienced, but not so much on the charcoal
definitely
type
not.
smoker
You have a
grill.
smoker,
Electric smoker,
Yeah,
yeah.
Wes has got the
I feel
electric.
comfortable electric-wise, but this is still foreign to me. So.
And I got
it's not.
nothing. So
Well, we're going to get you into something, though.
that's what
And
it
then
sounds like.
We're going to talk a little bit about that and kind of the difference between the real wood smoke, which is kind of my preference, and then the Traeger pellet-based type stove, and the ins and outs and which one's better, which one kind of pros and cons type thing for a novice as to somebody that takes it more serious like I do. So let's get these dogs off here first, though. Look at those! My gosh, if we had smell-o-vision, you guys would really like this. So we're the ones that are just going to get to enjoy this right now. Look at
You
that!
can even see the cheese.
Oh, look at that! I'm gonna bring it in tight here. Look at that! Oh, we got the cheese.
Just don't drop it in
dripping.
the grass.
I know, right? Like, he won't eat it.
Yes, Bronx will get it.
You know it.
Where
He's
are you
right
at?
in there.
Oh,
He's
you
chilling. He doesn't smell it yet. So, yeah. So Zenner's, they're over in Portland. Am I right?
I was
right.
going to ask. I've never heard of the label before.
Yeah, it's Portland-based.
They are Portland-based, and they're a long-time family-owned company
Oh.
that has. I mean, hell, they've been around for, I want to say.
I'm sure the
50
package
years?
said,
Yeah,
I didn't look at the established date on the
Doing
back.
this. They're known for doing
Just
sausages,
sausages.
Big
meats.
time. In fact, they've been on diners, drive-ins, and dives, I believe.
yeah.
Some of that kind of stuff.
Do they have a restaurant?
No, they have a walk-up. You can come up, and they actually put a grill out like this, and they smoke their sausage and things like that. So you can walk by on a Tuesday afternoon, grab a sausage, something like that, go have lunch,
That's pretty
and
cool.
come back or take it back to work, a whole boatload of more pork products that are exciting for everyone. So, no, they've been around forever. So I'm going to give these, we got these regular bratwursts here, I'm going to give these a twist and then load up some more fresh wood here because our fire is going out just a little bit. Today I used a base of cherry charcoal we're going full tilt apple wood though.
Yeah.
So we're going to get this out here.
And that's something we were talking about a little bit earlier, and again, since this is all new to me, you were saying this part right here is different than the Traeger.
Exactly.
And I have heard of the Traeger before. That's the name, and it sounds like that makes sense because that's kind of the more commercially known smoker, right?
Well, what they did was they've been around for a long time, but they hooked up with Terry Bradshaw, and they were purchased by another company. They kind of sold out. The family, took the money and ran.
Yeah.
And so, gotta get some more wood here. So they took the money and ran. But when the new company bought them, they brought Bradshaw on, shipped the manufacturing over to China. In my opinion, the quality went down of the grill.
The unit.
Exactly. I noticed that because I've had 3 of them. My dad had 3 of them.
Pre them making that move.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And the ones that I used them for competitions. I used their company ones. I had a dealer here that hooked me up with free ones to use for competitions and big cookouts because I would do like Relay for Life, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Well, once they made that change, then it was almost like I don't know, the prices didn't change, but the quality did. And that's
So the
last
margins got better. For
Yeah,
you.
exactly.
Boy, howdy. Well, when you
Yeah.
got a big company that wants to make a lot of money,
Yeah, and you're paying Terry Bradshaw.
exactly. And Terry Bradshaw money is not my money.
Right.
I mean, that's big boy money. So that's one of those things where I think they sacrificed that, but they blew up. I mean, now
Yeah,
down
that's
in
all-
California,
oh,
you've heard of them, right?
Oh, no question. That's all you hear about.
Yeah,
When it
and-
comes to smokers. Yeah.
Exactly. And they patented the technology, I believe, on the auger system.
This was what was interesting to me is because, and again, what you're doing right there,
Ooh.
putting wood chips in and loading
Oh,
the smoker.
Wrapped up.
You said before, right, that's just totally different than how a Traeger works. And
Exactly.
they don't do any of this kind of stuff. You can't do that right there.
no, you can't. What they have is they have a full auger system that it looks exactly like this.
Okay.
So you load your hopper. Actually, they're on this side.
Yeah.
You load up your pellets on one side over here, and then in a big fire or a big hopper, and then it drives them into a fire pot, just like a pellet stove does.
Okay.
And then you can have all kinds of different flavors of pellets, and I don't know if that's smoke getting you too
No,
much,
it's good.
but so you can have everything from cherry to mesquite to all of those good things.
But you got to buy these pellets.
You got to buy the pellets. There's different manufacturers of the pellets, and the different manufacturers have a different quality level to them.
Sure.
A lot of fillers in some of the cheaper ones.
Right, because you got to create the pellet somehow. It can't be just pure wood.
Got to use some sort of binding agent
Well,
in there.
no, so there
Or
is
there
is a
the
manu-
compression works well enough to kill it together. Or?
exactly. There's only one that I know
Huh.
of so far, and that is made by Bear Mountain, which is a company out of Hood River
Oh,
and across the river in Stevenson. They had a full 100% wood pellet and they started in
Oh.
the wood pellet stoves. Well, I don't know if they changed, because that's the only one that I would use, and I had a pretty good experience with them, but they went downhill as well. I don't know if it was a situation where it was not conducive to making money or what, but it became more. You always know there's more ash. That's the big thing. When it's a cheaper one, there's much more ash.
Because of a bunch of junk that's left behind.
Exactly,
that didn't
and it's
burn.
not
Interesting.
it's not burning completely. So
Okay.
I was really happy with them. And then the Traeger original pellets that you could buy, highest price ones, of course, but they were, in my opinion, probably the best ones overall. But Bear Mountain was supposed to be just as equal to them, but they weren't. I mean, their product went downhill.
So
And
they were to start with.
They were.
At some point they were.
And I used to get them when I worked at a local feed store here in town called LJC. We carried tons of wood pellets for stoves.
Okay.
And that's how I learned about Bear Mountain, was by going up there, and we don't want that. That would be a big spill. No. We would go up there, and I got to tour the facility, all of those types of things. And I mean, like I said, I was really happy with them, but they didn't continue on with that, and maybe they have now. It's been a long time since I've tried their product.
Okay, so Traeger Works pellets, this, and you said this is one of the, especially in this range, this is one of the better brands. This works on full wood chips, like you just put it. Right?
Exactly. So, go ahead.
No, because I was going to ask that, in your opinion, right, that changes things. It makes them better, but it also makes it tougher, right? What do you mean by that?
Much more time sensitive. Not sensitive. Just it takes a lot more time. With a Traeger, with a flick of a button, I can move from 200 degrees to 500 degrees, with going up in temperature.
Okay.
But because it operates like an oven, going down in temperature is very difficult.
Okay.
So like when we fired this up just a little while ago, I moved from 400 degrees down to 330 in like 7 minutes.
Okay.
Can't do that unless you just open the door on the Traeger. Then you lose all your heat and you're back down to way below where you want to be.
And you got to build it back up.
You got to build it back up, burning more pellets and things like that. And the one thing about Traegers that a lot of people don't know is that when the way the system creates smoke, unlike this has smoke all the time. We got a damper over here. We got a damper up here, and I'm basically playing the Wizard of Oz.
Sure.
Back and forth.
Airflow, messing with how much happens, all that.
All of that. And so the big thing is when a Traeger, we can close this now, and you want to see if you guys, you want me to bring the camera over so you
Yeah.
can get a look at it?
It'd be worth it.
Oh yes, for the smell-o-vision. Keep in mind right here that's where the back of it goes. This is great TV. Here we go, kids. Oh, look at that. Hi, Jennifer. Oh, she's a beaut. Look at the wings and the sausage and all of that. Let me line her back up here. Yeah, I think the shot looks great right there. So back to what I was saying with the Traeger. And we can get some, we'll go get some, you want me to grab some ketchup and stuff like that and some plates real quick?
Ketchup.
Oh, sorry, Wes. Oh, dude, I just totally hurt his feelings. I'm
You got
sorry.
smoked sausage and you're putting
I
a ketchup on
know,
it?
I'm sorry. Actually, yeah, you got it, I got whatever. Sorry. So, the way the Traeger works is that auger system drives on smoke 1 minute on, 3 minutes off.
Okay.
On medium, 2 minutes on, 2 minutes off.
The actual drive.
The
that's
drive,
putting the pellets
exactly.
Into, okay.
That goes, and then on high, it runs consistently.
Okay.
It doesn't create smoke until it stops the auger. So the heat, the wood all goes in there, burns hot, and then it cools down, and that cooling down is what creates the smoke. So on smoke, you're only getting about maybe 2 minutes out of every 4.
Not a consistent smoke.
Exactly, not a consistent smoke. Whereas this has smoke all the time.
I mean, you can see it.
Yeah, it's
coming in
obviously
and billowing out.
pouring out. And so the big thing with that is you're dealing with the fact that your food isn't getting quite as much smoke as you may want it to, and that can be a good thing and a bad thing. If you're doing something like a pulled or a pork butt, as long as you're not using a mesquite or a hickory or something like that, that is going to be a punch in the mouth type smoke. I actually don't mind that is a little less, because hickory and those types of things are, well, not so much hickory. Mesquite's the big one. A 12 here. Let me take that from here. I didn't have to hold that.
No. It has a punch to it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so mesquite, which is synonymous with Texas and things like that. Although you're seeing now in Texas, post oak is the big wood that you're using. If you're in Austin going to Franklin Barbecue, you're going to Salt Lick, places like that, they are using usually post oak, which is native to Texas, but we have oak up here as well. I don't know why they call it post oak. I don't know if it's from a post or not.
Yeah.
But anyway, so that's big down there. But back to the way the Traeger works, with the auger not turning all the time and not having to put out smoke all the time with the mesquite, it actually lowers the smoke punch a little bit, and I think that's a good thing. I don't use mesquite except for like chicken. If we're grilling chicken, mesquite's, man, that's top of the line. There's, in my opinion, direct heat or direct cooking chicken on mesquite is by far the best.
Interesting.
Absolutely love it. For these applications though, I'm looking for the lighter smokes, which is going to be an apple, it's going to be a cherry, peach, things like that. So when you switch over to the Traeger and you're going to not as much smoke with that, and I actually figured out a system, because they try to do, or they don't try, they have a temperature selection. I love the smoke is just rolling.
It's not a bad thing though. It smells pretty good.
I call it eau de smoke, and it's kind of one of those scents that I'm trying to bottle and But anyway, so where was I on the lighter woods like that, you're not going to get as much with the Traeger. And what I was saying with their temperature selection, it is usually within 50 degrees. So if it says 250, it's going to be between 200 and 300. Okay. They used to have it where, have you worked with the Traeger at all?
No, I've not.
You've never, okay.
No.
So they used to, in the old days, they had a smoke, medium, high. High being 500 degrees, medium 325. And come back here, bud. You're just getting smoked out.
Okay.
You're good right there.
I'll jump behind.
Rotate a little bit. Anyway, so with the smoke, medium, and high temperatures, I wanted always to run about 250, but the smoke runs at about like 190 to 200 a lot of times.
Oh, okay.
So I would get really inventive and take a can, like a Pepsi can or a beer can or something like that, and I would pop the door open about that far on medium. And then I could bring, so it would go from the 320.
Enough ventilation.
It would,
yeah.
and it would allow enough, the
Fresh
300 degrees would come down to 250, and I could smoke consistently with that, and that was great. That worked well. But again, I'm going back to the fact that I'm getting even less smoke on medium because it's cooking, it's going 2 minutes on, 2 minutes off, rather than 1 minute on, 3, or 1 minute
Sure.
off. Or, 1 minute on, 3 minutes off. So that's one of those things where, again, you're losing some of the smoke.
Then contrast that, because I see right here is a temperature dial. Right?
Exactly.
You've been watching that.
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to be able to hold this to that 250
Yeah.
much closer, much more consistently? Than
Much
a Traeger?
more consistent.
So that's kind of why you like. That's one of the aspects you got to like about this.
Absolutely.
versus the Traeger.
And this one,
No Coke cans, basically. No.
that's exactly right. And the big thing with this also is that it has a much higher grade steel in terms of thickness than what you're going to get with. I have now I think we were actually talking about this before we went on. I believe Char Grill owns
Oh yeah, one of you guys
Oklahoma
was
Joe's.
saying that. Yeah.
And so I actually had a Char Griller. It's going to the metal shop. And
Was it a smoker?
yeah,
Okay.
it
Okay.
was this, but it was the $100 version.
Okay. Okay.
It was great for somebody that's just starting. I would always say, go to that, get used to it, see that you like it before you make an investment in a grill
Fair.
that is more expensive.
That makes sense.
Absolutely. And so you want to see that you're actually going to like it before you try to put some kind of money like this into it.
What I thought was cool though is because you were describing, I was asking you earlier, did you have to do anything to this when it comes out of the box, right? And I cook enough, not smoking, but I cook enough to have known, like in a cast iron grill, right, that you got to prep it. You said this was similar.
It was exactly like that. So, and this was based on the directions. I actually, I got this from Lowe's. They delivered it, assembled the whole
That's
works,
cool.
which was, I mean, that's a great thing for me, you know, because like, look at this. I'm not exactly handy, but what they have you do is they have you take Crisco and put it in the entire thing, and then they say to go 2 hours. I went 4 hours, at least 2 hours. So you go pretty low on the temperature, and then you move it up with your dampers, and you add more charcoal, and bring it up to. I had it up to 500.
Well, that's interesting. They specifically called for charcoal, they didn't want wood chips or anything.
Exactly.
Yeah, they want is just a heat source.
Exactly, and the big thing also is when you initially do it, they don't want any of the coals to be hitting the sides that are off the grates. I actually took the old grates out of my char griller, and I put them in here for the charcoal, because this you can put charcoal in the main cooking chamber and in the smoking chamber if you want to go direct heat for burgers, steaks, and we talked about that earlier with. Before we went on air, that I am not a fan of steak that is smoked.
I didn't know that there's like that varies between people who cook and who do smoking.
Do you like to smoke your steak?
Never have.
You haven't?
I don't know if I've even tried to smoke steak before.
I
can imagine because I agree. We talked about this before we went on air. I agree with what John said. I like the nice char on both sides and nice and raw in the middle, and you can't get that.
I don't know how you'd replicate that in this type of environment to get it cooked.
If you wanted to get some smoke on it, on a steak, I would say you would go cold smoke. Like, use what you do. You were talking to us a couple weeks ago, I think, when we were at the Garlic Festival, about doing the pan of water, or the ice.
Pan of ice, doing a cold smoke on some cheese.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, if you wanted to throw some smoke on a steak, you almost par cook it. You wouldn't even bring it up to any temperature. You'd put it in there for like 30 minutes, I think. This is just me guessing. Sure. I've never done it. Put it in there for 30 minutes on a cold smoke, so you're not bringing that temperature up. Take it off, then you put it on your Weber or whatever.
Normally cook it. Yeah.
500, just like teal light, and you're done.
Yeah.
Take it off. So, actually, I'm going to take off real quick and get us some plates so we can start eating.
Right there. Plates? I got paper plates and silverware on the chair.
Look at this guy. Let's have
I threw the ketchup in the garbage can. Though.
Oh, you're killing me. Let's have something to eat, guys. Thank you. Over here in the frame.
Right.
Oh, I got some. Oh, don't use those tongs.
Oh yeah, they're raw. The cross contamination.
I'm a cross contamination freak. I do not like cross contamination. Are we going 1 or 2, John?
I'm going to start with one and
One?
have my eye on the second one.
Okay, Wes.
Yeah,
1 or 2?
we'll start with one.
Okay. I'll get that here.
There you
You
go.
guys have to look at the back of them. Oh, thank you.
Thank
We're gonna put these over here so that we know that we're clean. Thank you. You got the. Did you get mustard, Wes?
No. Am I
No.
supposed to?
I'm just going
Yeah.
with the.
I thought you were-
I'm a purist, man, when it comes to
You
this.
go straight up.
I'm going to go
Because
with
there's
straight
bacon and
sausage.
cheese and it's smoked.
Okay, I'm gonna
Why
give
do you
you-
need? You don't want to cover that up.
Well, it's an enhancement, right? I mean,
Sugary ketchup juice is. I mean,
okay,
sugary
you're
tomato
right.
juice is
Jeez
a.
Louise. Why you gotta be right all
I'm just
the time?
saying.
Jeez, you gotta be right. Just kidding. You're exactly right. So let's give this bad boy a shot here. Is it over? I
Oh, wow.
overcook it? Yeah, maybe a little bit.
It is good.
Mmm.
Yeah.
We gotta give a shout out to Zenners on this
Yeah,
one.
this is good stuff.
This is
Well, good shot, good calling, finding these.
Yeah.
Now, where did you get these?
QFC.
UFC?
They had their just traditional double smoked sausage, which I had seen before, but I'd never seen the bacon cheddar version of it. So I saw that. I was like, oh, see, you're doing that right away because I'd never done a bacon cheddar. But yeah, this is good.
Yeah, when we're gonna get ready to take the bratwurst off here in just a second. Back to kind of the Oklahoma Joe and things like that. When we're looking at, we kind of talked about starter grill, the char griller, $100 one. You put the smoker box on. Actually, I think the smoker box is like $40 on top of it. So you're into it $140. Not a bad investment considering that a normal sized Weber is going to be $99 at least. Yeah. Now I think a Weber, all around, quite possibly one of the greatest grills ever made. And do you have much experience with a Weber?
A mini Weber.
Yeah.
Like I used to take a mini one, to the beach or
Oh, yeah.
friend's house or something. Yeah.
Go to tailgates or
Right.
whatever.
Those were solid.
Absolutely. I mean, I used mine and I offset it to cook almost everything. When you were over here, we had tri-tip the other
Tri-tip
night.
turned out awesome on that.
Oh, it was phenomenal because you can't burn it.
Yeah.
You get the heat that you want, a high heat, but you're doing it and you're offsetting it so you're not burning the hell out of it. As much experience as I have doing this, you ask my wife, I can burn anything. In fact, Wes got a real good kick out of this plate that we brought out for the tri-tip the other night that said, what was it? Burnt by Dad's special cooking or something like that. Because I do have the ability to burn the ever-living tar out of things, but that's because I get a little aggressive with, I want to get, in fact, we did some wings a while ago when you were over here a few weeks ago, and I got them, I just put them over the grill, over the coals for like a minute and a half. Burn the hell out of it. Oh, son of a, and then, I'm pissed off because that's meat. You
Yeah.
don't want to waste meat. Never want to waste
Never.
meat. So for me, the temperature control on a Weber is amazing, just between the bottom and the top. So that's another good entry one. But when you're going straight smoker like this, we got the char griller. This is a really mid-range one. You're coming in at between $279, $300, depending on where you buy it. And then you're going to step up into the big boys. These guys are using heavy-duty steel. They're using, they're bigger. The grates are cast iron. This has porcelain.
Okay.
I'm not a big fan of the porcelain, but if I'm going to use my fingers, I'm sure my kids aren't watching, so we don't have to have as good a manner.
I would imagine those are things over time that if you wanted to, you
Mhm.
could upgrade. You could get cast iron for this grill.
You could probably find them and have somebody make them
Okay,
for you or
yeah.
something like that.
Yeah.
I actually tried to cheat and use the cast iron. The ironic thing is the char griller comes with the cast iron. Really high quality.
Wiesman's on. He wants to talk microwave techniques. He said.
Wiesman, okay, so I got my friend Kelly here. I used to live with Kelly years ago.
Okay.
Kelly is the best microwave chef on earth.
Okay.
You put a hot pocket in front of that guy, there's no one that's going to beat him. Nothing. Microwave popcorn, he's the Emeril Lagasse of microwave popcorn. And Pop-Tarts. Don't even get me started on Pop-Tarts. Am I right, Luis?
No toaster needed.
Oh, no.
Straight to the microwave.
No, he doesn't microwave those. In fact, I'm sure he's flaming right now because you don't mess with Pop-Tarts in a microwave. But all in good fun, Kel. But no, so kind of back to the smokers. You can get into the thousands, 2000s. I mean, it took me a lot of years. I used my char griller. I got that back in 2010, I think. And it's basically rusting out right now. And this was my birthday present from my wife. So even for me, having 5 or 6 barbecues, including a big smoker, I mean, it is a hell of an investment. How much was you have a Mastercraft, right?
Yeah, Mastercraft.
Yeah.
That was a Black Friday deal a couple years ago, but I want to say that was still $250-ish.
Was it really?
Yeah.
Now, yours uses the pan with the wood chips in it and an electric element under it, right?
Right, exactly. It's got a side feed hopper for the chips you can dump in, so you don't have to open the door. That's nice.
Okay.
You don't lose heat.
That's a bonus.
So it's got a little side compartment that you can dump more chips in to refill.
Huh. And it opens up like a door,
refrigerator,
right?
yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's like a refrigerator style.
So those are great, and you do a lot of like cold smoking, or not so much cold smoking, but like jerky and things like that,
A lot
right?
of jerky, the jalapeno poppers we've done, mac and cheese we've done on there.
Yeah, the ABT.
Pork belly burnt ends were phenomenal. I got to get some more of that from Costco and do that again because that was insane.
Tell them how you did the pork belly burn ends.
Pork belly burnt ends, found them at Costco. I was actually I called around to a couple butcher shops in Vancouver and they said they had them, so I was gonna at some point make my way over there. But we happened to be at Costco one day and we were swinging through the meat case there, and they had. I'm like, holy cow, there's pork belly, and it was cut probably 3/8 of an inch to a 1/2 inch thick, so a nice thick slab, but cut in strips like a regular piece of bacon would be.
Oh, okay.
So I got it home and I just cut them into like maybe 2.5, 3-inch chunks. And then I found a great pork dry rub online with brown sugar and paprika and cayenne and pepper and the whole thing. Made up a big batch of pork the dry rub, and just heavily coated, just packed it on there both sides. Anyway, lined up all my smoking trays. I filled the whole smoker with these things. And
how many trays? Or how many?
I got 4 racks, but they're probably like 16 inches by 12 inches or something like that.
Really?
So I filled all 4 of them up, and I forget now. It's been a while. I forget how long I let them go. There's a great recipe online that I found that I followed, and it was beautiful. So I'll use that recipe, or I'll use the timing instructions again. Anyway, let them go long enough, basically, so you get a little bit of a char and a crisp on them, because all that brown sugar will caramelize because of the heat. So you let it go just so it starts turning a little blackish with the melting of the sugar, and then you yank them off and dump them in a couple of aluminum pans and hit them with barbecue sauce. And you toss it all together to get the barbecue sauce coating the pork belly, and then you slide those aluminum pans back in the smoker for another couple hours just to hit it with some extra smoke with that barbecue sauce. And it's just, and also that heat then it's barbecue sauce and honey mixed together. So it's
you're really
it's a
getting
really
that
sweet,
caramelization.
And then you hit it back in with the heat and the smoke. So then that really thickens it up. So the stickiness of the honey makes it like a really thick, sticky barbecue sauce, which reduces down when you're on the smoker for another hour. So you end up with this thick, really super thick, like peanut butter almost consistency on the barbecue sauce.
I love it.
And that's coating what was underneath was the kind of charred-ish pork belly, and it's just phenomenal. So yeah, I did it once, and I will do it again, definitely.
So
Can't say I have.
Wes and I went to this amazing barbecue place called Matt's Barbecue with my dad and my son, and that was the reason we went over there, was the pork belly burn ends. And now you've had them before you went over to Matt's, right?
Not the burn. I had pork belly in different applications, but not as a burn end before.
Oh, okay.
That was a first for me. So
It
that's
was.
when I tried that. I'm like, whoa! I got to replicate this and do this again. That's how I got on that little kick there. So
How would you put yours? And I'm not trying to measure your cooking against Matt's. But
I'm
like
pretty
them?
impressed. I'm pretty. I don't know if I would say. I don't want to say I'm as good as Matt's on that, but I mean, it was. I don't think it was much of a step down. If anything, I think they were phenomenal. I would do them again in a heartbeat. I want to do them again.
Really?
So yeah.
Well,
they
I
were
think
really
we
good.
should. I think we need to get down on one of the shows.
Yeah.
We'll have John come up on the KCP private
Private jet, yeah.
paper plane.
Yep.
Yeah, we have a
Paper
paper
airplane.
airplane that we can
Direct
ride
Santa
around.
Barbara to Portland flight.
Exactly. Well, it's our choppa. We get, we'll have Arnold get the choppa and bring you on up here. So, John, if you're going to be in, and you said you're a novice, you kind of do the
Yeah.
Weber thing.
That's
that
right.
kind of stuff.
Grilling, you know, you grill a steak or you put some veggies on the grill, that kind of stuff. That's about it.
Exactly.
That's what
Are you looking to kind of get into the
I
bigger
would-
stuff?
Like I said, you hear a lot about Traegers and smoking, and I got a buddy that even does it.
Oh, okay.
And all of the stuff that you hear, I mean, and I love meat, and so
Mm-hmm.
the way that it sounds like it turns out on the smoker is just for a lot of stuff. Now, again, maybe not steaks, but for a lot of other stuff, just turns out awesome. So it makes it intriguing to
And-
think about doing a smoker of some kind.
Absolutely. And I think that for somebody that's kind of in the beginning stages, do you like pizza?
Yes.
Okay. You're going to buy a Traeger knife. And this is why. It's the greatest pizza oven you're ever going to have. And I forgot to mention that when we were talking about
you
this.
talked about that
Let me
before.
grab your beers for you. You
Oh,
guys
sure.
look thirsty.
I just finished the second one.
You
so-
what? My goodness, you are a stealthy
I
beer
went back in to
drinker.
get the plates, and so I grabbed the second beer.
Oh,
so.
there you go. So, what happened with me and my Traeger was that it became a 1,000 square inch pizza oven that sat on my back patio that I used occasionally.
Okay.
Well, we have a place called Papa Murphy's here. I don't know if you guys have those down
Yes,
there.
yes.
Take
Take and bake. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
You go get one of their cowboy pizzas,
Oh yeah.
and
Barbecue sauce and
it's got
all the
all
stuff.
kinds of
Yeah.
sausage and all that stuff on it. You ramp up the Traeger to the 450 mark,
Oh,
which is
okay.
on high, and you put that thing on there and you cook it just like you would in an oven. It's going to be the best pizza you've ever had.
Really?
Are you? And so you're using wood pellets?
Absolutely.
So you're. And what kind of wood are you?
Well,
are you
see,
like an
with
apple
that
cherry kind of deal?
application, no, it doesn't matter when you're on high. You're not going to get a true smoke
Oh,
out of it
okay.
because it is burning incredibly hot. Go ahead. You got a question on that?
But if you're burning it so hot, where then is the difference coming between that and me just using
Here's
like a
where it
lever,
is.
right?
When you have a Traeger underneath the cooking surface on a Traeger, so we actually let's look at these real quick.
Back it up.
Bag it up, bag it up. We're gonna look at these.
Wow, that's awesome.
Oh boy. These bad boys are just about done. Just do a little bit more on the old sausages here. There's so much smoke I can't even see.
You can't see anything.
I can't see it. Where did the sausages go? Actually, a little bit more wood on it too. Sorry to hit that.
Is that right?
We want to keep things cooking. Not getting as much. And I'm still getting
So
used to this.
if the on a Traeger, if it's burning so hot that you're not really getting much of a smoke aspect to it,
Right.
what makes that so much better than
Exactly.
like an oven?
Exactly.
Here's where it is. So on the Traeger, you've got a drip system, a
Yeah.
pan system. Okay, so from left to right, it runs downhill.
Mm.
We have the same thing here. There's a grease bucket. In fact,
Okay.
I have to get mine. A grease bucket that goes underneath it.
Okay.
But on that pan, you line it with aluminum foil. And on that aluminum foil catches all the drippings from everything you've cooked in the past.
Okay.
You don't change that every time you cook. You change it. For me, if I barbecued twice a week, I would probably change depending on what I had. So if I did pork butts and things like
Sure.
that twice a week, about every 2 weeks,
Change.
3 weeks, I'm going to change that. In the meantime, though, Friday night you pick up the pizza, you've got all that grease, all that stuff on there. Well, what happens is when you turn it on high, it fires it all up. It gets incredible
All those flavors
smoke
from the grease.
from all of the grease. So it's like when you're grilling chicken, the best thing about grilling chicken is when the fat drips down, or a steak drips down, hits the fire, and you smell that, the flavor or the smell
Yeah.
that releases. It's the same thing with a Traeger. That's why I say if you're into that kind of thing and you want kind of a jack of all trades type cooker, and it's like I said, it operates like an oven. You have all of those wonderful flavors from a pork butt, from chicken wings,
Yeah.
from all of those,
Yeah.
and all of whether it's barbecue sauce or the rubs that you use. All of those things are on that pan, and when you're at 500 degrees or 450, it is just sizzling in there. And that smoke, I mean, it will run smoke like this. Like if you've got a nice pan going, and I
Yeah.
know that kind of sounds odd to say, but if you've got a nice pan going, you're gonna roll smoke like this when you're cooking a pizza, and it's not gonna come from the wood chips. I mean,
That
there will
makes
be
sense.
there will be some, but it's like when you fire up a pellet stove in your house. you're not getting a tremendous amount of smoke out of it.
Right.
Because it's running all the time.
Yeah.
And they're designed to be efficient and not put out a lot of smoke. So you're getting all that flavor, and that's where the difference is.
I see.
You get that. Oh, and
It just infuses into
it
the.
does,
into the
and it's
pizza.
something that I can't recreate with this.
Now-
It's a big difference.
Now my next question is, with Papa Murphy's, it comes with the paper tray
Oh,
for
yeah,
the
yeah.
oven. You
Yeah,
lose the tray and
exactly.
go straight on the grill with
So this is the same way I cook it in the oven. You don't want to put it in there for a long time because it is paper. But because it's indirect heat, that's the beauty of the fact that the Traeger
Okay.
does not have any
That's true.
direct flame. You're not going to burn it. Unless you left it, I mean, if you left it in there for 30 minutes, I bet you it'd catch on
Okay.
fire. But you've got the cool pizza on there. It warms up, and so at 7 or 8 minutes, I go out there, and you've got enough of a formation of the crust coming
Yeah,
together
yeah.
that you pull it out and you let it finish on the grill. So you get grill marks on your pizza.
Oh, so you do like halfway.
Halfway
you cook
through
it
it.
halfway in the paper, then slide
I slide it right
off
on.
of there.
Okay.
Just like I do in the
Okay.
oven.
Oh, okay.
And that way you get the crispy
Okay.
crust, because that's what I like. I like a nice crisp crust with the inside of the pizza still a little,
Little doughy.
the dough,
Yeah,
little
yeah.
dough. Exactly. So for me, that's the big way,
I
the
see.
difference in
For
the
sure.
Traeger cooking, and why I call it. I mean, you get these guys that drag around these $5,000 pizza trailers. You know, the
Oh yeah,
look
yeah,
like
no,
an
yeah,
igloo
you
and
see
stuff
them all
like
the
pizza
that.
oven,
time. I see
yeah.
them.
Why the hell would you do that? Just get some Traegers out there and throw them on, and I mean, everything. And they're bulletproof in terms of burning stuff and whatnot. Yeah, you could put stuff on there and you can overcook it. You're not going to burn anything though because it's indirect. And you're not. I mean, I have had, and my dad had this actually happen to him at my rehearsal dinner. We did a bunch of salmon and things like that. Well, I talked about that grease pan, and I can't remember what else he cooked. I mean, it was my rehearsal dinner. I was kind of, but what happened was that grease somehow got beyond the pan. Holy moly! Now here's the ironic part of it. We were at a fireman's house.
Oh,
We
yeah.
had flames coming out that SOB just all over the place. It was nuts.
4-alarm fire on the
Yeah,
Traeger.
damn close. So, and I've actually had a grease fire happen on there too. If you're running that bad boy on high for quite a while,
Yeah.
it is absolutely going to work itself up, and especially if you got like chicken on there that's got moisture, it drips down there. Grease and water, they don't mix. So that there is that kind of, but like I said, in all the years, and I started cooking on them, I think when I was like 15, 16, somewhere around there when my dad got his first one. It's going to be, I mean, few and far between, and you've got to have a hell of a lot of grease on there to cause something like that. Whereas this, I mean, geez Louise, just, if you don't keep an eye on these bad boys, you could have a severe problem. But, you know, what I used to do with my Traeger is, if I wanted, let's say on Saturday afternoon, we're going to have college football,
Yeah.
everyone's coming over, pulled pork, the whole works, brisket. At midnight, I would go out, and I would, I'd have my Traeger all fired up, fully packed with wood pellets. And here's kind of another cool thing: is I would layer my pellets, not chicken food,
So it would
layer
feed
pellets.
different pellets
Exactly.
at different times. During the
Exactly. I'd go mesquite, cherry, mesquite, cherry, and I don't know if it made a big difference.
Sure.
It may have just been a placebo effect, but it's
Still
still,
worth it.
it was kind of fun. But I would go out there midnight, put my pork butts on, and because it's indirect, there's no live fire that
Yeah.
anything can have a problem with, I'd go to bed. And then I'd get up at 6 in the morning, and I would mop my pork butts. I do, and we'll get into that as KCP Cooking expands. But I mop my pork butts. So then I always wanted to start doing that though about 6, 7 hour mark.
Yeah.
When we're starting to get a little bark on there, put that on there, and I'd only do it about 5 times. Once an hour, I have a mop that I made, and who literally I would use like a washcloth or something.
Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah.
actually, my wife got me a true mop thing at one point, but just put it on there. It's apple cider vinegar, some beef broth, Worcestershire, all that kind of stuff. So
I just, not to squirrel on things, but to go back on a previous subject with the pork belly, I forgot that like after the 4 or 5 hour mark, maybe at 3 or 4 hours. Anyway, every hour you open the door and you hit it a 50-50 mixture of apple cider and water
Oh, there you go.
in a squirt bottle.
Yep.
And so you open the door and just spritz everything down, and then shut the door for another hour, and then open it back up an hour later, spritz it all
adding
again.
moisture into
Yeah,
the
and
process.
then it also helps to add to the bark because you've got the sugar from the apple cider
Exactly.
getting on there with the brown sugar, and so that just helps form a thicker bark on it too.
And that's
so.
something that I do with ribs. So when I do baby back ribs, which I actually wanted to do today, but because of unforeseen circumstances, I didn't. What I do is, I don't, when you're doing long cooks like this, you don't like the chicken. We're gonna have teriyaki on this in a little while. I don't want it on now though, because it will burn the hell out of the chicken. Well, when I do ribs, a lot of times people really like sweet with their barbecue. So I put my rub on that I make, and then exactly what you're talking about is I would take apple cider or apple juice, whatever, and I went a little more than 50-50. I usually went about, I would say 75-25, a little bit at about the 2-hour mark. I would start spraying that every 30 minutes, 15 to 30 minutes, as long as I have good control on my heat. And I'm not losing a lot of heat, because it can really extend your cook time if you're opening the door a lot.
Oh, exactly.
That's something that
yeah.
you really want to be aware of. But yeah, I would do that. I would spray it down with the apple, or sometimes just straight up apple juice, and spray that, and that just puts that nice sheen on it. Oh, it's so good. And then you get that crystallization. Then I would take it off, and I put honey on it. And like I said, we'll get into this in a future episode. I wish you would be here for it, because it would probably be
Sounds
fun.
good.
Right? And then after that, I would take my barbecue sauce, because I have a sweet barbecue sauce that's a triple berry. It's got blackberries, raspberries, and one other berry.
Boysenberry or
Yes.
Marion?
Exactly. And sometimes they have a triple berry mix at Costco that a lot of times I would
Yes.
use, and so but it was incredibly sweet. I mean, my normal barbecue sauce has about a half a cup of sugar in it, brown sugar. This had, I bet, 3 to 4 cups when it's all said and done, between white sugar and brown sugar. Very sweet, but it had some heat to it as well. And the amount that I would make with the berries, it would cut it so it didn't taste like you're eating a just one of those. Remember those pixie stick things?
Oh,
With
yeah.
just straight sugar.
Oh,
It was
yeah.
like, hey, it's diabetes in a package.
Yeah.
How do we get this? But so it wouldn't be like that. Then I would rage my Traeger if I was using that. Bring it up to 500. Put that on the barbecue sauce on it. It finishes off the meat, brings those juices, gets them activated. Because if it's been working at 250, juices aren't really jiving around and stuff like that. When you raise it up, it gets them moving. 15 minutes top, maybe 10, somewhere around there. Then you get to pull them off and let them rest, just like you would a steak. Let that rest, and just sit. Oh, I can taste it already. It's so good. I really wish we had ribs right now. Let's
What are
get
those
these
brats
bad
looking
boys
like?
off here. Absolutely. Woo.
Yeah.
What kind of timing we're looking like on the wings, you think?
Actually, they're not going to be that far out there. I bet everyone loves me just bending over in front of the camera like that. I'm going to move them up a little bit and crank the heat so that we can get them going for.
Before I have to shut
So
down
we can
and
eat.
retool. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah, because we're going to have to do that here pretty soon.
Yeah, we
So
don't
let's.
wanna- don't want to run out of time.
Nope, we're going to move the chicken over, and we're going to move the. That's some work here we're doing.
So now this brings up another question.
Oh, look at it. I'm going to bring this
Oh,
over to the
yeah.
camera, though.
Wow. You're gonna get
Look at
Bronx
that.
with the
Bronx. Woo! Look at the juice on that, Bronx.
Smells it.
Wow, that's awesome. So
Okay, go
now
ahead.
my question is, and you kind of addressed it, maybe I missed that part, with the whole Traeger, and you can dial in your temperature. With you dialing in temp here, now you're talking about like that.
Hot. It's a hot fire.
Now you're talking you wanna crank the temp up a little bit.
Exactly.
So that's just a matter of the dampers?
On a Traeger?
No, on this.
Oh, on this, absolutely.
Yeah.
So we've got this damper up here, and that's why I kind of call it the Wizard of Oz effect.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, you can ask him. I'll come out here and I look like the goofiest, like we do right now, just 3 guys talking, really loud. That's kind of what I'll just sit out here, and as I move these over real quick, this is my big one, because My damper down here is directly to the fire.
That's increasing airflow, making a hotter fire because it's sucking in more air, right?
And then this is the exhaust though.
So that's if you shut that down, that retains the heat and builds up the heat.
And the big thing why I really like this grill was because when you've got a higher gauge steel that's thicker, it's in smoking. It's about heat retention and cooking in general, whether it's your oven at home or whatever. It's not cold ambient temperature that robs you of heat. It's wind. Wind is your biggest enemy when you're smoking. Well, when you can protect it because of a higher gauge steel, you're going to retain that heat so much longer. It's going to save you a tremendous amount of wood. That's the big thing. You're not going to need to cook with nearly as much wood because you're not burning it as hot. So that's, another thing to think of when you're looking at these types of deals. So we've got and back to your damper question, we've just got a normal, just opens and closes like that. I mean, I don't mean to dumb it down, but it's really simple. This one though, the other thing I've liked about this, and we can't really see it right now, but the damper is about, that wide that we can open. But this thing has a door about that wide that fully swings open so that you can clean it out.
Oh, okay.
Because you really want to make sure that you don't leave ashes in here a lot. You can go, 1 or 2 cooks somewhere around there, you're going to be just fine. But once you start building up, you're getting ash in there and more, well, you can see how fast this is moving, this smoke. That is going to move ash as well because it's a wind effect.
Right, exactly.
So it's going to suck and put ashes all over your food. Not something that people are looking for when they're having a bacon wrapped chicken wing. Is
Different than pepper.
a little bit, just a hair. And it's like having Mount St. Helens as your topping for your chicken wings. You don't want that. So anyway, do we want to kind of wrap up here?
Yeah, I think so. So we can retool and we'll come back with the full-fledged podcast.
Exactly. When we come back with KCP Live, hopefully we'll be pretty darn close to having some of these wings off here so we can try them and
give an update on the taste.
Exactly. So with that,
all right.
Thank you guys very much for joining us for the first KCP Cooking Live. This was a lot of fun, John. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Look for John real soon. I'm going to give him a plug real quick. John's got a new podcast coming out on KCP called Tech 2 with Wes's dad, David.
It's true.
It's going to be amazing. You want to give us a quick hit on you, just a little bit of information about you?
Yeah, sure. So actually, I'm going to be doing it with Wes's dad, who, because Wes and I are cousins, it's also my uncle.
Your uncle. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. But I'm actually, it's my uncle David, though he's just David on the show, and myself. We actually both have backgrounds in engineering. He did that. He did more computers, but used his engineering degree for most of his career. I worked in engineering for a little bit, pivoted into finance, but we're going to use all of that to bring up over a half-hour podcast to bring up current topics that people may come across and really try and see how they relate to people's everyday lives, and to also try to bring them up to speed on so many buzzwords out there now with net neutrality, Bitcoin. Bitcoin's a big one.
Cryptocurrency.
That's right. So we're going to try and break some of that stuff down, keep it at a level that people can,
like me,
that people can digest, but that it makes sense and that they can kind of go forward understanding what it means, and maybe when they interact with it or see it, they get what's going on.
That's going to be awesome.
That's our goal.
And you also have a podcast that you do down in California called...
It's true. It's called California Streaming. It's on iTunes and Google Play, all that kind of stuff. And we really focus on, because these days there is no problem coming up with topics to talk about specifically relating to California and politics. So we dive into that. We probably have a lot of commentary that runs counter to the majority of California politics.
It's really hard to believe, right, Wes?
That's right. But it makes it fun. And so we do that. That comes out once a week on Wednesdays. We do a podcast once a week.
That's going to be great. Well, you guys come out on California Streaming, and we'll put a link up on KCP 46.
I can't remember.
We'll have a link on there and for California Streaming.
Oh, me. Thank you. Yeah.
And then we'll also, you guys look for Tech 2 that will drop on Thursdays.
I think that's right.
From here on out. So we'll see you guys in just a little bit. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks, everyone.